My very first summer in Los Angeles, probably about a dozen years ago now, I was staying with my older brother. He lived on Venice Beach at the time, and it was broad daylight, and I cut through a public parking lot on the way home, and I hear this door slam behind me, maybe 5 or 10 meters back, very, very loud and angrily and aggressively. I can tell someone's really mad. And I start hearing this woman just screaming obscenities, just screaming at somebody, and I'm like, whoa, somebody's really mad at somebody. It takes a moment to figure out she's screaming at me. And again, it's broad daylight. There's crowds around. At the time, I was in my early 20s and the head of my college mixed martial arts group, so I wasn't physically concerned for my safety, but still curious to understand what's going on. So I turn around and I just kind of like shrug, right? Like, not sort of aggressive, not an angry comeback, not confrontational, just like, what? Right? And as between her screaming obscenities, starts yelling that I walked too close to her van. Oh. And this is when you have to just keep kind of walking away as she continues to scream obscenities. Because you realize this person's living out of her van. She would probably rather not be in that situation in her life. She's not in a good place. She's not in a situation I can help or do anything about. Her anger is getting vented at kind of whoever is nearby. And this is something that I think is an applicable lesson for dealing with trolls online. Which, if you're a content creator, a game maker, an artist, a writer, a musician, anybody who's trying to build some sort of audience, following, reach, etc. online, you're going to experience trolls at some point because it starts to be a numbers game. And the reason I say it's a numbers game is what I had to remind myself of. I grew up in small town Midwest. I wasn't used to big populations. There are tens of millions of people in the greater Los Angeles area. So if there's a 1 in a million chance that any given day, there's just a person who just snaps and just loses it at people around them for whatever recent or lifelong thing is going on with them. Again, which they don't want that to be the case either. They're not happy about this. It's some sort of real negative, unfortunate overlap of events. If that's a 1 in a million chance, then we have dozens of them in Los Angeles every single day because there are tens of millions of people in the greater area. Now, I say this about LA as if it relates to you, and it does because you're on the internet. And the population of the internet is a heck of a lot bigger than the population of Los Angeles. So again, if there's a 1 in a million chance of somebody being, imagine what a busted state of mind somebody could be in. Destructive, self-destructive, outwardly destructive, warpath for the day. If there's a 1 in a million chance, and if there are 3 billion people on the internet with you, you're looking at a lot of those kind of people floating around in that mix. Right? And when they come at you that way, there's several things to keep in mind. I like to use for this a little line from Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, one of my favorite books. Air quoting books. It's not really a book. It's basically his diary or his journal that got published. But because of that, it has some fragmented thoughts. One of those fragmented thoughts is that the best revenge is to not be like that. And isn't that just lovely? The best revenge is to not be like that. And I still think about this whenever I'm on the highway out here. We got big, fast highways, lots of cars. And there's just some jerk dangerously weaving through it, risking everyone else's lives for whatever's going on with them. Or if I'm in a public space, a shopping mall, a grocery store, and there is somebody who is clearly acting inappropriately to people around them, the thing I remind myself of is that at least, even if I temporarily have to deal with someone who's in that situation, I'm grateful I don't have to spend the rest of my life in their shoes, because what a rough time they're going to have of it, right? Almost every major belief system, there is some sort of mechanism for how or why we believe that people who behave destructively get their comeuppance, whereas people who behave well and wholesomely, things will turn out better for. But, send those devices people discuss might be in terms of karma, might be in terms of sins as sort of form of metaphysical scorekeeping, might be in the form of, various sort of, some people might cast hexes or curses on people who do ill things, or various kinds of belief systems. But I don't think we need any sort of appeal to a supernatural or metaphysical concept for why someone's life is going to be rough if they're rough to those around them, right? It's clearly, it feeds back into that negative feedback loop of, I guess it's really a reinforcing feedback loop, where bosses don't want to work with people like that if they have other options. Coworkers don't either. People in relationships don't want to be with someone like that. People in social groups, just for friends, don't want to be friends with someone like that. Landlords don't want to deal with people like that if they can find other tenants. And everything in their life will be harder. Teachers don't want to help students like that. Everything in life will be harder because they're like that until they get less like that. And so ultimately, really, you wish that they would not be like that, right? You wish that they could find their way back into a better track. Now, here's the thing though, right? If you're being attacked by somebody, you can't help them. If their offenses are aimed at you, even if what they need is help, it can't come from you. It can't come from your direction because their weapons are pointed at you. It's got to come from somebody else in their life, and hopefully they have someone else in their life. I realize sometimes why somebody's in that kind of terrible situation, they don't feel like they have somebody they can reach out to. But that's the only direction this help can come from, whether it's family, friends, pastor, coach, teacher, community volunteer, somebody who they're not aggressively going at. Because if they go aggressively at you, dead end. You can't do it. You can't, even if you want to help them, you can't help them from that spot. And so the best thing you can do is just not to become like them. When people troll online all the time, and this is the sort of thing that trolls don't really troll each other because they got nothing to troll each other over. People who get targeted by trolls are people who create things. People who are building a following online by doing art, by doing writing, by doing music, by making games, by making videos, by whatever it is you do online. And what starts to happen is that crowd starts to build up. And again, there's this kind of numbers game. Well, what's the worst mood that someone who's a 1 in 1,000 chance could be in? And you look at the number of followers, the number of viewers that someone has, and divided by 1,000, you're going to have maybe that many at that range of their attitude that day that you're dealing with. And just like walking past that van in the parking lot, realizing that wasn't about me. That wasn't about anything I did. That would have been projected at whoever was within arm's reach when they were in that awful state and that toxic condition, which again is something you don't wish on them. You wish wasn't the case for them. It is though. And all you can do is not let it pull you down. And the same thing happens with when there's trolls not producing stuff besides fights, and you are actually making something. If you engage with them, they're still not going to make stuff. It's not going to improve the situation at all. All it's going to do is take away your time, momentum, confidence, and other things that are helping you continue to be a creator of the things that you do, continue to advance in the things that interest you, continue to build a better platform from which to help others. All kinds of things that you can do that are positives, none of which will be helped by engaging with a person whose sheer clear goal is just to get you to fight with them. You know what this reminds me of? There's actually a speaking coach. I'm not going to use his name here because I'm actually going to be kind of picking. And this is a case where, again, I don't want to pick a fight with this person. I want to just raise this for a point. But speaking of picking a fight, one of the strategies this guy does, and just for context, this person's a massively wealthy keynote speaker for Fortune 500 companies. He gives talks to rooms full of CEOs, etc., where they're charging him insane sums of money to stand up on stage, talk for 40 minutes or whatever planned. And part of how he lands those gigs is that on his speaking page, it shows like as seen on ABC, NBC, CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, etc. Right? All these different like pretty recognizable television brands. Now, the reason he's been on those shows, and he talks about this, he pretty openly kind of encourages it as a technique for speakers trying to build up their momentum, for speakers who are as slimy as him, as I'll get to, is all the time on news television programs, right? I mean, long ago we passed the point where because of the internet, people find out about stuff before the TV has a chance to inform you. So it's not new by the time it's ready for television. All TV can do is have commenters argue about it. It's a lot of talking heads fighting because that creates drama, that creates intensity, that raises viewers and ratings. And so what happens is they need a foil for someone who's there to speak about an understood issue. Understood issues like climate change, like evolution, like vaccines, you name it. Things which are very firmly established, well understood, science, and reality. And they literally cannot find someone from an honest position of expertise to counter that point. What they do is they go to him. This is the guy who just wants to be up there. He's like, you know what? Yeah, whatever. I don't care. I'll argue for it. Let's just do this. And the way he explains this, he's the other side in those who says like, oh, no. See, here's why climate change isn't real. Here's why vaccines are ruining your babies. Here's why evolution is made up or whatever. All these just absurdist positions. He takes them knowing they're not even real. He's not even arguing from a position of good faith. He's not trying, as he says it, he's not trying to win the argument. He's trying to become a part of it because that gets him up on that stage. Financially, other end of the scale of what happens from the trolling sphere, right, is that they're not trying to win the argument. They're not entering with good faith. They're not entering with an actual point to be made, with an actual defensible position. They often don't even believe the point that they're making. They want to be a part of the argument. They're not trying to win the argument because they know they can't. So don't give them that, because that's what they're after. And that's it for the day. The best revenge is to not be like that. It can be very hard in practice. Like a lot of these things, it's very natural to want to feel like you have to prove somehow, correct them, fix what they said, whatever. Usually the situation then is well beyond something you could fix without a lot of dedicated time and energy. And in any case, like I say, by the time that they're attacking you, they've closed off any chance of you being able to help them. So, you know. And I will also say, obviously, like, again, it makes more sense instead of being upset with them to sort of pity their situation. But you, of course, can't project that either, since that would further antagonize them. Antagonizing somebody who's already in a crummy situation is only going to rile them up further. It's a form of engaging. Again, not really what you want to try to be doing. So hopefully a strategy that's helpful out there for some other content creators, whatever it is you create. That's it for the day. Yeah, have another video for you tomorrow. Bye for now.